None of us have had perfect beginnings or origin stories. And so without knowing everybody's story, I'm sure to some degree we have loved through our scars, right? We have grown through our scars. But then it begs the question, how much of those scars are the things that we experienced growing up? How much do they shape the way we partner, the way that we love? How much of that is truly beneficial to us? And then how much of that do you think is from trauma, you know? And then where would you say that trauma like originated? Or how does it show up?
You mean as far as family dynamics?
As far as the family dynamic.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of what we learn, like, of course, we see it from our parents, and we've all kind of talked about that, like your parents not being very affectionate. I had the same experience too. Like, I never really saw my parents like embrace each other or kiss and everything. So I internalized that as, you know what, I want to be a more that to be my love language, more and for my kids to see that, as a healthy thing. So I think even when our parents aren't perfect, and that they aren't, and that's one of those things you learn as you get older, that your parents aren't perfect and they don't know everything, I still think there's value in your parents' imperfection. And I think there's lessons in that too. So it doesn't mean that you failed as a parent because you weren't perfect. I think those imperfections can actually shape your kids in a positive way. And I think my parents' imperfections shaped me in a positive way.
Wow, I love that, because I can honestly say that my parents' imperfections or efforts did 100% shape me. I can honestly say that with my father as an example, so we talked about, or in our community, we talk about absentee fathers. We also talk about single mothers and so forth. So I had an opportunity at one point to have both experiences as far as the parents being together and then the parents being separate. And I can say that for the behavior of my father, though, the lessons that and I'm going to say lessons as a nice word, the lessons that he gave me were lessons that I actually took to heart, because for a long time, I was trying to understand why this behavior, why treat your daughter like this? But it actually helped me in the long run, because I knew exactly what to look for in the man that I was going to be with, or in any relationship that I was going to be with, because he helped shape that, even though the experience was 100% negative, right? Lots of negative ramifications, consequences, and so forth. And then at the same time, growing up with a single mother for a while, watching her work and struggle and raise 4 kids and so forth, it was like, okay. And then she got remarried, and then having a stepfather come into the home, and that changing dynamic told me some things that I would never want. And so I worked really hard at maintaining my marriage, because I'm 26 years in for marriage now. It was very important to me to make sure that I didn't, one, repeat the cycle, and 2, to make sure that I picked somebody who wasn't just like this person, because oftentimes they say women date their daughters. Women look for, fathers. Thank you. That's messed up. Please forgive me on that. Lord have mercy. No Diddy, all type of way and everything. So anyways, but they do say that women look for their fathers in their relationships, but that's only for women who fathers were good. Or they also say women also, when the father is absent, look for that in their relationship too, because they're looking for that father figure. That's why you have so many women who may date older men, because they're looking for that father figure as well. And then the last thing I would say is that with a mother, so often we actually don't talk about how mothers really affect their daughters, because there's a competition element there, whether they want to admit it or not. And that also affected me as well, because it was like, well, why is this competition? Why does it exist? Like, why do you feel me that I'm a threat? But it wasn't that my mother thought I was a threat. Actually, in her own way, she was trying to teach me how to be independent. She was like, this is what's going to be expected of you growing up. You need to be able to do X, Y, Z. And so while I'm being taught to be independent, in my personal opinions, my brothers were being babied. And so it was like that type of dynamic also helped play a role in how I am today because of that. So 100.
Well, as a guy who's thinking about doing a book called My Father's Son, I wonder which parents affected me. And I also wonder how they affected me. You might have to read the book to find out. No, I'm kidding. What a teaser. Honestly, it's weird because I think my parents were a perfect storm. So my dad is charismatic, well-dresser, great dresser. He's outside, you know what I mean? Life of the party. He used to throw events and parties back in the day, a hustler. And and definitely a ladies' man. So I got a chance from the passenger side to watch him holler at women, even though he was married to my mom at the time. I didn't think nothing of it because I was like, oh, it's just dad just talking. I remember maybe like about 11 to 12, me and dad double dated, which was always funny when I tell that story. Yeah, he was going to his mistress's house and she had a little niece that was around my age. And I was just all happy to go over there too. You know what I'm saying? I was spending time with my dad. And so, he would do his thing. I wasn't paying attention, but that definitely probably had an effect on me, right? Aside from maybe genetics, seeing him move in that way was very nurturing of that side of me. Now, conversely, my mom, especially once my parents broke up, she wasn't the most affectionate. And ironically, I feel like, that might have been the same complaint that my dad had. So inappropriate. But I do think parents heavily impact their kids, right? So for example, if my mom was raised in a home where she didn't have a male figure, or her mom didn't constantly have a male figure in the home, where would she see or learn how to be affectionate or to treat a man necessarily, right? For her, maybe just doing her duties was good enough to a certain extent. Whereas a guy who's maybe charismatic and outgoing, who feel like he can just pull whatever, feels like he needs a little bit more than that. So my point is, for me, it impacted me because now I found myself looking penub in all the wrong places. Like I was looking for affection and attention from women. So you got a guy who's a player, right? And then you have this little boy who's looking for affection, who now has the skill sets necessary to maybe fill that void through charisma, charm, and cock. Right. So you should probably be
the 3 C's. Yeah.
I fell victim to the need for alliteration. But my point is that after years and years of therapy, you realize that a lot of times I think for me, I'll speak for myself. I think it's true that we want women like our parents, or we want like a woman like our mom, or even the opposite. I think you can swing either way. Either you're looking for somebody who has the traits or the qualities or whatever, or you're using her as a litmus test. And ironically, I did that also. So not only did I have this part of me that was like my dad and had this need for my mom, I think I went out and married a woman that was like my mom in a lot of ways, like really solid, hardworking, dope as a person, right? But there was ways that it was like there's a block there. Right. And I'll land with this and say that it was weird, I think, to feel like you're redoing your parents' relationship, but it's your own. It just so happens that the two people, maybe there's semblances or resemblances between the parents, but it's your own. And you get to look at the mistakes that were made before. So whereas my father probably didn't communicate effectively about maybe where things were falling short, I made sure that I was communicating effectively. So therefore, whatever their challenges were, we work on it. You get what I'm saying? And you also realize that the other person has their own backstory too, right? And if they're not open to unlocking that, you don't know what blockage they may have to present in their full selves. And in the process of therapy, I think there were things that my wife, went through that was in part because of her father. And then also realizing how similar that she may see us in terms of leadership or position. It just also happens that he was an alpha too, right? Just by coincidence. But my point is, I think it does impact us far more than we think. And I'm glad we're talking about it because I don't think a lot of people realize how either the same sex parent or the opposite sex parent can affect you. And I think sometimes it's either to be like, be attracted to, or repel against.